frustrated. Anyway, I ring up in the northeast of England, in Sunderland, right on the coast. So I do hope from the point of view of accent, it's not too bad. I've been asked to just talk on how to approach the teaching of bell handling after a long break. And really, it can be a bit of a minefield. The first thing is, are you ready? A lot of us have picked up our ropes with a little bit of hesitation, thinking about our towers, ventilation, how much space is there, what's the access like? Have you still got a viable band? There've probably been losses due to illness or the long layoff. I've certainly had both of those, plus a simple unwillingness to return while the virus is so rife. Should you actually be recruiting at this time? Again, not every band will be ready to recruit or want to recruit. Some are actually very prepared to continue with a reduced number rather than introduce new learners. And finally, are you actually ready and willing to return to teaching? There will, of course, be COVID concerns. Some of us, certainly some members of my own band, are bound to feel a bit anxious. It's difficult to teach without close contact. A distance of 1 metre, let alone 2, isn't really an option. Passing on or picking up an infection can be mitigated to some extent by wearing a mask, by rope hygiene, by lots of ventilation. And bear in mind that your new learner will probably have these concerns as well. Are you ready to integrate a new learner into your ringing bubble? You need to get your existing ringers on board with the possibility of new people joining your band. Talk to them, discuss the implications of new ringers with all the band before the teaching begins. Find out their feelings. Some are likely to be wary, others might welcome newcomers quite openly as a chance to strengthen the band. But if you're doing the teaching, if you're not the tower captain, certainly in conjunction with them, you really need to know where you stand on this. My personal feeling is that if you don't feel ready for any reason to start teaching handling, just be honest, say that. Your tower, your ringing bubble really should respect your feelings. If, however, any reluctance is based more around picking up teaching after a long break, there are definitely strategies to help you feel confident when teaching again. And here, preparation is the key. Go back to basics. Look at the online resources on Smart Ringer, and that will refresh your memory. It'll imprint good practice. And the video clips, and there are lots of them, will probably show that you haven't actually forgotten as much as you think you have. Look at the Module 1 online refresher course. It's free and you can do it when it suits you. Your Teacher's Guide to Learning the Ropes covers all the basic points as well. Look again at your logbook. Again, it's a memory jogger when you think about how often to have sessions. You know, it's probably not going to be the same as you had before. There may be shorter sessions. Perhaps book onto an art refresher workshop if you didn't have the opportunity to teach at all before lockdown hit in March 2020, or you're having to teach after a very long break. You simply want to brush up on the main points. This could be for you. It's a half-day refresher. It's open to everyone who's ever been on a Module 1 course. You don't have to have just done it. These workshops are now being run very widely with small groups. And the focus is on 3 main elements of teaching handling. They look at raising, they look at putting the hand stroke and backstroke together, and lowering. There's also a section where if you have any specific concerns or things you want to work at, discuss it with your tutor beforehand, and I'm sure they can be incorporated as well. So head for the events website, see where your nearest one is, or ask for one in your area if there isn't one. There's bound to be lots of other people who feel just like you. Think about what it is that you're going to teach. Are you going to do handling from first principles with a new starter, refresh a learner who had lessons before lockdown, or iron out handling faults which have crept in with a returning ringer? A first principles lesson is going to be very different to one on handling faults. So do, make your focus on what it is you're actually going to teach. Make a lesson plan that will keep you focused on what you want to do. You can review it, think about how the lesson went, and plan how to follow it up. Your first session, if you've got any worries or concerns, which quite a lot of us have, and I've certainly done this myself, practice the lesson before you start to teach it. Ask for a helper from any experienced ringer that you know. Take them through the first couple of sessions as though they can't handle. That'll give you a huge advantage because they almost certainly will be a model pupil. That'll build your confidence from the start. Any mistakes or errors, whether deliberate or not, should be rescuable by either of you. Or you can use a session to practice rescuing situations, like example, a dropped rope, before you actually take a new ringer. Ask anyone in your band to help as long as they can already handle safely. Get feedback from them. Did you forget to give an instruction? I know from experience that's really easy to do because your helper knows exactly what they have to do. Could you have worded something differently? When you are teaching, do remember the basic levels of instruction. Verbal instruction, clear, concise, consistent. Demonstration, very effective when you link it to talking them through and then letting them have a go. But also work out, does your learner need a longer explanation? Do they need more information? For example, why is a straight action important? It might not be obvious, but we all know why it's important. The learner won't. Remember, adults will probably need more information than children. They just want to get on with it, basically. Actions might include physical prompting or physical assistance. It's impossible to teach handling without some physical contact at some point. So do make sure the learner and parent or guardian, if it's appropriate, knows that there will be some contact, usually just hand touching. Being able to demonstrate this beforehand can help immensely, either with a second person present or just by using your own hands. I like this. It shows how different learning styles react best, but remember that most people have a mixture of learning styles, and they sometimes have a dominant one, but most people do have a mix. The logistics, where on earth are you going to teach? Is your tower suitable in COVID land? It may not be. Think of access again, think of ventilation. Can you use a different tower? Or have you got a local teaching centre or art hub? Not everyone has, but most people ring at more than one tower, and a lot of people are very happy to have their tower shared. Are you going to wear a mask? Is your learner going to wear a mask? Both of you? Neither of you? Bear in mind, it might be difficult to give a lot of explanation and instruction if you're wearing a mask. I do feel that this is a purely a personal decision between the teacher and the learner. It's up to you. You know what your situation is, and bear in mind how nervous your learner might be, but do have that discussion beforehand. Who is going to be there? Having someone other than just you and the learner can be very beneficial for demonstration purposes, especially if they're a ringer. A second person watching does get a different view, and they can see things which can be missed if you're close up one-to-one and concentrating hard. And I've just seen that I've forgotten to mention that intensive teaching will bring faster results. So that harks back to how often you do have lessons and sessions. Make it what you're both comfortable with. They may be shorter but more frequent. You will get faster results from, sessions that are closer together. Learners forget less between sessions. Also think that youngsters probably need shorter sessions than adults. If you are teaching youngsters, do get a permission to ring form signed by a parent or guardian. And don't teach alone if you're teaching children or vulnerable adults. Do have another adult in the tower with you. Would you consider group teaching? Co-teaching, where two teachers work with a learner or as a part of a bigger group. This can be a massive confidence builder for both teachers and learners. And really, I've seen this done very successfully and effectively at both the Birmingham School of Ringing and at an art hub in the D&N, which is my local association. If you haven't done this before, could you start your own teaching group locally? Learners and teachers will almost always benefit from support of other people. Ask and take up offers for other people, other ringers, to be guinea pigs or chaperones. I like to ask my less experienced ringers if they're willing to do this. They may be the teachers of the future. It's also a great opportunity for a less experienced ringer to recap in an environment where they don't feel as though they're taking a backward step. It can be a great boost to their confidence as well as yours, because you know you've already taught them or had a hand in teaching them. They can see how far they've come and that they're able to help the next person with their early lessons. Teaching really doesn't have to be a lonely exercise, and personally, I don't think it should be a lonely exercise. So before you start, you'll have revised the syllabus, you'll have practiced your lesson mentally or physically. Remember to make the session enjoyable and safe. Think about the weight and go of the bell that you intend to use. Light is nice, but might be flighty. Heavy will give you more time to react, but it might tire you and your learner out a little bit more. You've also got to build in what sort of learner you've got here as well. If you've got a very slight younger person, you probably won't want to put them on a 1500 weight bell. But on the other hand, you might. Do think about it beforehand. Chat with them, how they like to learn. Every learner is different, and your teaching really has to reflect their needs. When I'm teaching, I find it doesn't take long to work out whether I've got a nervous learner, a mad keen one, someone who's heavy-handed, or someone really who's got the concentration span of a gnat. They really all bring their own challenges. If you've got a learner who's a lot taller than you, think about, are you happy on a stack of boxes, bearing in mind it won't be for long. They might be physically a lot stronger than you. You can do a lot of work on a bell which is down before they touch a rope on an up bell to ensure they're not going to put too much weight on the rope. Emphasize that ringing doesn't require brute force. It's technique which is going to give them a good, safe ringing style. Perhaps they wander, and I've seen this very recently. Could you ask them to stand inside an upturned box? A bit controversial, perhaps, not for everybody. This was with an 11-year-old, and it did work a treat, and her mother was actually in the tower at the same time, so it was all very safe. That's one way around it. Another way around it might be to put them on a box and shorten the rope so they've got less distance that they can possibly wander. Do demonstrate what happens if they're moving while they're holding the rope. It will come with them, and it will make safe handling very difficult. You might have a nervous learner who's going to need a lot of encouragement and positive reinforcement. Or you might have, this is my nightmare, a very confident learner, an overconfident learner. They want to move on before they've fully conquered what you're showing them. If you can find ways of teaching the same thing from a different angle, it can help. They get the consolidation and can feel that they're not stuck or being held back while you're embedding correct actions all the time with lots of encouragement. And one example is backstrokes. How hard can a backstroke be? It seems simple, you know, especially with a confident ringer. They pull the tail end, they pull it back, they think they've done the job. But you can do an awful lot of work with backstrokes. You can work on a straight action, how much effort to put in. You can work feeling for the balance point, having the confidence to pause at the balance point, and you can work on setting. And I certainly spend a lot of time on backstrokes when I'm teaching. Every lesson, you should always discuss safety rules, especially how to check whether the bell is up or down. Only then start to teach. So we've got your first session. Be safe. Remember, a lot of things can be done on bells which are below the balance, or you can start from bell down. Both of these will minimize the chance of an accident or a broken stay, or even help you not to have to raise your voice, which can make a learner wonder whether this hobby is for them. Starting with the bell down is immediately confidence boosting for the learner. They've got the rope moving and they can make the bell sound in a very, very safe environment. Always watch, observe, and feel what's happening all the time. A lot of learners just don't seem to get that you can't forget or not do one stroke. Everything is interdependent, and one bad stroke can take several more to regain the correct action. Take it slowly. Remember the art ethos, whole part whole. We've all been through this. Small steps, keep going back to them as often as you need to. Don't let unwanted actions continue, and correct something before it becomes automatic. Good communication really is vital. Body language, attitude, facial expressions can all communicate a lot more than words. But if you're wearing a mask, the masks can hide these important clues. And if the learner's wearing a mask, that can hide their reaction. So you've got to bear that in mind. Involve whoever it is you're teaching. Say things like, can you feel that? And am I making sense to you? But do listen and respond to what they say back to you. You might have to stop and explain or demonstrate all over again. Lots of reassurance, especially if something isn't clicking. Definitely lots of learners struggle at this point. It's almost a stock phrase, but also something like, I found this bit really challenging too. That can help. And if you've got another less experienced ringing it with you, they could probably say, oh, it took me ages to learn this, learn the correct action. It's all going to offer a lot of reassurance to the learner. You might need a different approach for each session, taking into account perhaps the time of day. Are you teaching on a weekend daytime, or are you teaching on an evening after work or school when everybody's going to be a lot tireder? So that's another way to work out how you're going to teach, when you're going to teach. If you need to leave whatever step you're working on, if you need to leave it for now and revisit it the next time, say that, but definitely make sure you actually do it. There's nothing worse than a learner thinking, right, it's my next session, and Christine said we are going to work on backstroke setting. And then when I come to do the lesson, I actually don't touch backstroke setting. That's a bit confusing for the learner, and it probably makes them wonder whether I'm doing a joined up teaching program. So if you do think you're going to leave something and revisit it the next time, write it in the logbook. If it's a shared teaching practice, make sure it's available for the next teacher to find and work on at the next session. Perhaps a shared spreadsheet or a chart, and I've seen both of these in use, and I've seen them both work absolutely brilliantly. Always, always, always give feedback. It's so important. Be positive, react immediately. Focus on how to do it correctly. So something like, try to get your hand straight on the tail end after you've released the sally, rather than don't let your hand wander when it comes off the sally. It can be very difficult not to say don't. Try to think ahead when you notice something that needs correcting so you can work out how to word it. Obviously, reward effort as well as performance, especially if you've got youngsters. And give praise when it's earned. But on the other hand, don't allow a false sense of achievement. I don't find it difficult to find something to praise when I'm giving lessons, whether it's the timing or you're getting it right more than last time, or it really is building nicely towards the correct action. There are definitely things you can do to make people feel that they're making forward progress. As you end each session, draw it together with positives. So well done, you're really getting the hang of whatever it is, followed by we need to spend a bit more time on, and then you've made great progress, a brilliant session. Looking forward to seeing you the next time. Make sure the learner leaves feeling that the lesson went well. So to summarise, you really do need to feel ready to take on or resume teaching. Do your homework. I did this one practice night when there were only 3 of us available. We went through all the basic exercises of teaching handling. By the end, I was absolutely shattered, and my 2 less experienced ringers had had a session addressing handling faults. I was very open about it, and it went down very well. Do take it slowly, especially if you're wearing masks, either or both of you. Facial expressions can't be seen, and voice interaction is going to be more difficult. You might have to talk an awful lot more. As the main point of contact for teaching handling, you are going to be the person who can instill a love of ringing in your learner, give them the best start on their ringing pathway. A good handling style is going to make it easier for them to make progress. Enjoy all the successes and breakthroughs. It's not just about the learner. You have to enjoy it as well. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Some of you, as Leslie said, have already asked questions about returning to teaching handling. I hope I've covered or touched on some of the points or most of the points, but as Leslie also said, we're now going to do breakout rooms. So thank you.
Thank you.